Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the act, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to reiterate things that have already been said, and certainly not things that I said at the outset of this debate. I just want to conclude my thoughts on this with pointing out the actual numbers here and what we're really debating. We are going to, if this bill passes, change the fabric of this state. We're going to be the first state in the nation to enact these types of truck tolls, which is not a leading indicator I think we want to be in the forefront of. And we are going to set up a system whereby tolling is going to be an indefinite part of our future. What are we getting for that? Listening to the testimony in House Finance a week ago and listening to Director Altaviti and the projections, there's really two main funding components to this legislation. The first is the Garvey bonds. And just so everyone knows, I think you all do, but just in case anyone does not, the Garvey bonds are essentially a way of bonding out future federal highway funding. We are going to get, for this surge of construction, $300 million. This is the projection, $300 million up front at a debt service cost over the 15-year life of the bonds of $24 million per year. The tolls are projected by RIDOT, and I don't know if their projections will come in or not. We'll see, I guess, given the way this debate's gone. The tolls are projected to take in $45 million, but there are operational costs to the tolls. Now, according to a director, the operational cost of the tolls will be about 5% of the revenue. Now, I will tell you, I've had staff look at this. Tolling in other states shows that the operational costs are significantly higher than that, typically somewhere between 10 and 20%. However, in other states, they may have people working in the toll booths. They may be older systems. Presumably, this will be cutting edge. So just accepting a director's estimate as worded 5%, once you figure in operations losses, credit card fees, annual maintenance, you end up with around $4.5 million off of the 40. If you don't mind, I'm going to round that down to $5 million, round it up to $5 million. So basically, we're going to net $40 million from the tolls while paying out $24 million from the Garvey bonds, which means that for the next 15 years, this plan, if enacted according to the projections we've been given, results in a net gain of $16 million per year. Those are different buckets of money. I understand the money to repay the Garvey bonds has to come out of one bucket, and the money for the tolls goes in a different bucket. But the net gain to the state, based on the figures we were given, is $16 million per year. Yes, we get the $300 million up front, but it's $16 million per year. That's what we're talking about. After 15 years, presumably it goes up. The thing that has frustrated me most in this entire debate is this. I do not think we need tolls in this state, but I understand there are people who genuinely do believe we need tolls, and we can have that debate, and we've had some of that. But I will tell you this. As I said, this bill is 13 days old. There are other options out there, as I said at the outset. I don't want to rehash everything, but they have not been discussed. Our plan found money in the existing budget. And yes, it gored a lot of oxes or sacred cows, or whatever metaphor you want to use. Some of the stuff in our plan, we were looking to cut $60 million per year. Some of the stuff in our plan, I wouldn't necessarily want to cut either, but sacrifice requires sacrifice from everybody. Everybody can look at the budget and say, you can't cut that because that's important. But you know what? If we really want to fix the state's roads, what is our priority? The state's roads should be a top priority. As I said at the outset of this debate, we do need to do something, but we do not need to do it this way. If we're only going to net $16 million in toll money by doing this, what are we doing? Are we telling me we can't find that in the budget? Now, granted, that includes the debt service and the Garvey bonds. And I said at the outset, why not do a hybrid? Why not do a Garvey bond initiative, bond them out, take the $300 million, find the debt service of $24 million per year in our budget? We looked and we cut $60 million per year. A lot of people didn't like what we cut. I bet you could find $24 million. Every year we do the state budget, we seem to have rounding errors by the time we get there and get the thing done to balance, and we can find that money. The problem is, ultimately, the reason this body is about to pass tolls is because people in this room, and maybe we're representing our constituents, I don't know, and I say it collectively, maybe we are, the people in this room would rather toll trucks than cut the state funding from the projects that people think are important. It's a matter of priorities. We do not want to find the money elsewhere. We are not initiating tolls to fix bridges. We are initiating tolls to avoid cutting a $9 billion budget in a state with 1 million people. And there's no better reason why this is a bad piece of legislation. Obviously, I'm going to vote no. I hope I have nothing else to say tonight unless somebody gets me upset. And thank you for your time.
Clerk, unlock the machine. All in favor, please vote green. Those opposed, red. Clerk, lock the machine. 52 in favor, 21 opposed. The act prevails.
If anyone in this room thinks for 1 second that this government or any government does not or has not abused power, such as described in this amendment, then they're either on another planet or they haven't lived in Rhode Island long enough. This will turn into a revenue stream. And I hate using that word, revenue stream. This will turn into an oppressive taxation burden on the taxpayers of the state of Rhode Island. You can bank on that. The odds are better on that happening than not. And as far as the committee process, I'm not going to repeat what's already been said. Don't mock the system that you're hiding behind in the first place. Let's be intellectually honest with ourselves and with each other about what's happening. For once, can we do that? We know what's happening. This is a good, simple amendment. It won't hurt you to pass it. Thank you.
All right.
Let me tell you about my district that I love so much. It's unique in a couple of ways. It's unique in many ways, but one way is it's the largest geographic district of all of ours. It covers the most amount of land of all of ours. 37% of the Rhode Island and Connecticut border is in District 40. It runs from the southern part of West Greenwich, the southern part of Burrillville, to the northern part of West Greenwich. In that district, parallel to my border with Connecticut, is Route 395. To my south, there's a planned toll on 95. To my north, there's a planned toll on 146. Running east-west through my district is Routes 44, Route 6, which was deemed one of the 10 deadliest roads in the nation about 10 years ago. Route 6A, which is no through trucking on it, but yet 18-wheelers drive down it because it's a lumber store, there are restaurants, there are other businesses down there. Route 101, Route 14, Route 117, Route 118, running east to west. They come directly from 395. They all connect to 395. Running north-south is Route 102, which was the main north-south thoroughfare in Rhode Island, in the western part of Rhode Island for years. And Route 94, they run north to south. Jeremy in my district called me. His house is located, it's circa 1700s. It's an old, beautiful house. It's located pretty close to Route 102 in Gloucester. He was telling me about the damage to his foundation from trucks going down the road so close and so fast. And just the beating that the road takes. It's not voodoo, it's not magic, it's understandable. But my concern is diversion. Because make no mistake, the analysis was made to avoid that toll on 146 adds a mile and a half to someone's trip if they take one of those roads, depending on where they're headed. My friend Repucci pointed out that 1,000 trucks a day go through Route 6 in Johnston. They start in my district in 44, on 101, on Route 6, on Route 6A, on 114, on 117, 118, Route 14. They're just going to turn. Before they get to 146 on 395, they're going to turn down 44 or 10106. Before they get south to Route 95, they're going to do the same thing. The village of Chepachet is going to be decimated. Foster is going to be destroyed. Greene, the peaceful, quaint little town of Greene in Coventry, is going to be a superhighway for trucks trying to go around tolls on their way to where they are. We see, and we've made some comparisons to other states, the state of New York lost over half of their business by month end, owning part of it to the Port Authority bridge tolls. This is something we all got in emails. It's something that I looked into. It's ruining business in New York, and they're pulling back on their tolls. Myself, I ran trucks with my business coming in and going out. I know what it's like. I know what every penny costs and what it does to a job. I lost a customer over a truck that hit a pothole and blew a leaf spring with a $15,000 display exhibit on it because I couldn't get to the convention on time. They wouldn't hold a convention for my display to get there. So I had to repair my truck, and I lost a client. I know what it's like. I don't need anyone to tell me how bad it is. I've paid for how bad it is. I am painfully aware of how bad it is.
Time, Representative, 15 more seconds.
Thank you. I don't see any protections in here for expansion. We've already gone over that. This whole project from the beginning started with misrepresentations as to what trucks were going to be tolled. We've been told the Pawtucket River Bridge was willingly gone over. That is a lie. The truckers told us that. We've seen pension estimates from the same person that have just not hit it. Thank you very much.
Clerk, unlock the machine. All in favor, please vote green. Those opposed, red. Clerk, lock the machine. 52 in favor, 21 opposed. The act prevails. Representative Costa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will be brief because I know most of everything was already said. I think this is probably one of the hottest issues and the most emails that I have received since I've been here for my 2.5 terms. As of this morning, I had received over 103 emails, all in opposition, 2 in favor, and probably over 50 that said bring it to the voters. So I am in favor of this. Let the voters speak. I'm not afraid to make the difficult votes. I know how to vote. I know what my district wants. So I'm just asking, this amendment would be good to let's know what the voters want, and I'm not quite sure they really want what we're going to vote on tonight. Thank you.
Representative Costa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is just one question on the bill. Is it too late to ask the sponsor a question?
No, it's not. We're on the bill.
Thank you, sir. May I?
You may. I believe the leader is the sponsor. Will you yield, leader? Yes. The leader will yield. Proceed.
Thank you, Leader DeSimone. I just have one question. On page 10, lines 11 through 18.
You got that, Sean? Page 10. You got it? Go ahead.
Any toll evader who fails or refuses to pay or prepay the required toll and such fees will be fined possibly up to $3,000. Is the Rhode Island State Police going to be responsible for implementing the fines? And if so, have you talked to Colonel O'Donnell and how he feels about?
Yeah, my understanding is the state police is going to be enforcing it.
Thank you, sir.
Clerk, unlock the machine. All in favor, please vote green. Those opposed, red. Clerk, lock the machine. 52 in favor, 21 opposed. The act prevails. Senator Filippi.
Thank you, Speaker. Last year when we had the Taylor Swift tax proposal in front of us, the reason why I was so opposed to it is because it was a new reservoir of state power. They would only grow. At first it would be homes over $1 million that were second homes, and then it would be all homes, and then it would be homes over $500,000. And it's because the nature of government is to expand and take more and more of the people's resources. At its core, that's why I'm opposed to this statewide network of tolling, because I believe eventually it will be expanded and will continue to grow and will eventually touch our passenger vehicles. A couple examples where I think past history of this state portends negatively for the future are when we did pension reform. We promised that any surplus in the budget would go to fund the pension system. That lasted 2 years. We also promised that we'd do an 8-year phase out of the car tax. That didn't happen. And when we asserted a sales tax to fund DEPCO in the 80s, that was only supposed to be a temporary sales tax that would be repealed when DEPCO was fully paid off. That was never repealed. So it gives me great pause that the constitutional amendment, which was put forward as an amendment tonight, was rejected. Because the only way we can bind our future successors to the promises we make today is by amending the Constitution. So at its core, I'm opposed to tolls, and that's my case. But if we are going to establish a tolling program, we need to put forward the best bill possible. And this does not do it. We are establishing the most intensive system of statewide tolling in the nation. There is no limit on the number of locations or the locations. That map that the governor put forward, that was a political map. That was a political map. There were no tolls in the East Bay. That was a political map. We all know that the number of tolls can increase and the locations can change. There's no limit on the price of each toll. There's a limit on the total tolls paid per day. But if I were the DOT director, I may say, hey, the first toll you go through is $39. Everyone's a penny after that. We don't limit the power of the DOT director to make those decisions. There's no requirement that the data is securely maintained. We already had that debate tonight. I won't rehash it. No limitation on using gantries to issue speeding tickets or other moving violations. There's no limit on the privatization on the operations of the system. If you go to page 9, lines 24 to 31, they clearly allow a private operator to maintain and operate the gantries. I have a problem with that. I think it's a government function if we're going to go down that road, not some private operator picked through competitive negotiation. And I have questions as to whether the income has to be put into the restricted receipt account in DOT. Maybe I'm incorrect, but I look through here and I don't see a specific requirement that the operator has to deposit the money into the DOT. Maybe that's another problem in the bill that needs to be cleaned up. So I oppose this bill for many reasons. Philosophically, and beyond philosophically, the bill just needs work. It needs to be made better. And I oppose this wholeheartedly, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Clerk, unlock the machine. All in favor, please vote green. Those opposed, red. Clerk, lock the machine. 52 in favor, 21 opposed. The act prevails.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House. On this day, February 10th, the year of our Lord 2016, my spirit is broken because this day will live in Rhode Island infamy, to borrow a clause from a president of ours. On this day, it seems to me like we can't really call ourselves a representative republic, because I thought a representative republic is representative of the people. This thing seems to me like we're representing special interest, not the interest of the constituents that we serve that put us here. Did anybody listen to the people? Am I the only one that got 1,000 to 1 against versus for? I can't be the only one. Numbers don't lie. Is anybody listening to the businesses? We had Mr. Perlman was crying his heart out telling us how impactful this was going to be. We had a committee process.
Your point of order, Leader.
Mr. Speaker, could he refrain his remarks to the amendment itself and not the bill?
I'm building up to that.
Well, please.
Because we do represent businesses as well as people. So, and a lot of my people are business people. So I think it has everything to do with the bill and the amendment. But anyway, there were businesses that were asking questions, and we had to cut them off. We couldn't follow up with any other questions. We ended up that committee.
Representative, at this point, the leader is correct. Could you constrain yourself to the amendment before us? You'll have plenty of time later to bring up other issues on the bill itself.
Okay, so we wanted to get a lot of questions answered as this pertains to the impact on our businesses. The central nervous system of any economy is our businesses. And it's not only the trucking industry that happens to be using trucks. Everybody uses trucks. My company uses trucks. It's got nothing to do with that. It's that we didn't do enough to help our own businesses. That's our family. We're hanging them out to dry. And I just don't think it's right. So I would say we should definitely support this amendment. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House. Just consider the scope of this thing. A little tiny state that we are, to have 14 tolling gantries. To take a line from the governor.
Are you on the amendment?
Yes. All
right.
So
tie it together,
as a
please.
trucker, you have to think, my God, a little tiny state like Rhode Island, probably about 1,000 square feet, give or take, to have 14 tolling. That's about. Sorry,
I don't think you're on the amendment, Representative. We're going to be here long tonight. I'll give you all the time to speak, but please, we're on the credits of the amendment.
So when the truckers are considering being in Rhode Island and there's 14 tolling gantries in this little tiny state, it has to impact them. And the other day I was listening to my constituent on the radio, Gene Valicenti, when you were on, Mr. Speaker, and the governor was on, and prior to you being on, they had Mr. Perlman from Ocean State Job Lot. So Gene was trying to ask the governor all these questions about what the points that Mr. Perlman brought up. And I thought the way she answered the question was no different than a mother would tell their little kid that, hey, you got to eat those peas. So that's not the way to treat any business in our state.
Mr. Speaker, could we please ask the proponents of the arguments to keep it to the amendment, please?
You have not said one word on the amendment, and you're 1.5 minutes into your discussion, and I'm interested in hearing everything you have to say, but you got 5 minutes twice on the bill. You're on the bill. We're going to be here till 3 in the morning, and it's going to be a disservice to everybody in this room and everybody watching. So please, when we're on amendments, because I expect we're going to get a lot of folks on each amendment, just stay to the amendment, and then we'll get on the bill when we're done with the amendments. You're on the bill right now, Representative. Proceed on the amendment.
So with all due respect, that's exactly what the point that I'm making is that we just have the gantries per square mile. It's really hurtful to our businesses, and I think we really should be taking better care of our businesses. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise in support of this legislation. I may disagree with my colleague about 12 too many. I think it's 14 too many at this point. But with that said, 14 is a lot of tolling gantries. And we're leaving this at the discretion of one person who is appointed, not even elected. And, there's a lot of holes in this bill. I mean, I like to think about it as the Swiss cheese bill because there's a lot of holes in there. And this one right here would be one that might cover up one of those holes. So there's going to be a shortfall with the 14 gantries, and do we really want them to just be able to quickly add 15, 16, 20, or whatever? It seems to me like the goal is just to get the approval for the tolls, and then we'll figure out how to get more when the time comes. Now, to quote, my father, one of the smartest, toughest guys I've ever known, he always told my brothers and me when we were growing up that there was a family, the guy was very wealthy, and he had children, and he said that he was going to give all of his inheritance to the richest child. And I said, well, why would that make any sense? And he said, because if you have all the money, you know how to use it. If you're a squanderer, you're going to squander it. So we're going to give total authority to an agency that's been squandering our hard-earned tax dollars for decades. I think this is a great amendment. Thank you.
Representative Giarrusso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I know we heard a lot tonight, but I don't know how many of you got a phone call like I got last night. But I had a woman, I never met her before, but she called me. She got the number from the legislative website. And she was literally in tears. And no, she's not a truck driver, as some people may think, but she just thought that we're just heading down a slippery slope. She said that this is going to be really hurtful to our businesses, our taxpayers, and I can't disagree with her. I got numerous emails, letters, phone calls. But, it brings me to another point. East Bay reps, You know who you are. How dare you support this bill? How dare you? We fought tooth and nail to get the tolls off the Sakonnet River Bridge.
Talk on the merits of the bill. Don't chastise any other members, and don't tell other members what to do. Speak on the merits of the bill, because everyone has a different opinion. I've heard from a lot of constituents that absolutely said go forward with this. So everybody has a different opinion. I've suggested that earlier. You don't monopolize folks' opinion, and you can't chastise our colleagues. So proceed on the merits of the bill, Representative. Thank you.
If I was chastising, then I apologize. I was just trying to make a point that we do stuff in here that when your pinky hurts, your whole body hurts. I've never crossed that bridge, maybe twice in my life. I hated it because they're Rhode Islanders over there. I thought it was punishing them. So now for us to be contemplating this, we're putting bills up. We're going to be putting tolls, and we're not just going to be attacking the hard-working taxpayers of the East Bay. We're getting everybody. So I just don't think it's right. We fought that hard, and now to be doing this, it's just another thing. But there's a lot of people that are voting with their feet. And if in case you haven't heard that before, they're leaving. And all of us know people that are leaving, they just can't take it anymore, the climate. And there's a telling story that one of my former constituents said that he left, he and his wife and his children, they left. And I said, what are you leaving for? Is it really that bad? And he said, I wanted to leave here while somebody is still able to buy my house. That is a mouthful, and that really hurts. And I just want to close with this. We're really putting the screws to people. And I think someday we're going to see a sign, a big billboard on 95 that's going to say, the last person to leave Rhode Island, please turn the lights off. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, if we're so sure that we're not going to, that this body, whether it's us or our great-grandchildren, is never going to do this, and they're going to let the people vote on it, then what's the big deal in just putting it in the Constitution? Wouldn't it have been very convenient if we would have put the lottery revenues in the Constitution that goes to education? Wouldn't it have been really, really good if we had put that 2% income tax in the Constitution to bail us out of the DEPCO? No. So someday, we're going to be having the same conversation. You know what? We need more money. I think we should just legislate that little line out of there that road to referendums and things like that. Let's just do it now. We'll just take that pill, we'll swallow it now, and by the time the November election comes, the people won't even remember we did it. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the leader yield to a quick question?
Leader DeSimone, will you yield to a question? He will.
It is on page 9, line 29, where it says competitive negotiation. I'm just wondering, with the Administrative Procedures Act, they advocate for competitive sealed bidding. Do you know why it was not done this way or what the difference is?
Well, through the competitive negotiation, this will give us some flexibility, but more importantly, it will give us an opportunity to save money. So we're not under the Administrative Procedures Act. This is something that will give us the opportunity to try and work out the best type of agreements that we can. So it's an effort to save money.
So is the competitive sealed bidding, is that usually more voter-friendly, taxpayer-friendly, transparent?
Well, you said a couple of things there. But my response to you is that, hold on one second. So what I would say to you, Representative Giarrusso, is the language allows them to use that type of competitive bidding. It's permissive. It's not mandatory. It's permissive, but it's already in the law. So I think whether it's transparent, I think ultimately all the contracts will be public and therefore will be transparent.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Clerk, unlock the machine. All in favor, please vote green. Those opposed, red. Clerk, lock the machine. 52 in favor, 21 opposed. The act prevails. Clerk, unlock the machine. All in favor, please vote green. Those opposed, red. Clerk, lock the machine. 52 in favor, 21 opposed. The act prevails.
Thank you, Speaker. Once this bill is passed, it's passed. We don't have any protections in it. You are going to be approving the most intensive system of tolls in the country. 6 roads, 14 gantries at a minimum. The director, what few questions I was able to get to him, mentioned that, oh, how great. When a car passed through one, it would go to the next. They have such great technology, they'll be able to tell how long it takes you guys to pee when you get off the road. He said it. They certainly will be able to tell how fast we are going. In other states, they have already started sending traffic violations out to people going through gantries. So if they approach it and they're going too fast, they can send them a traffic violation, and they are starting to do that in other states. Nothing will stop them when they need money. This is a real danger to our travelers. And we shouldn't take it lightly. We shouldn't say, well, down the road we're going to fix it, because that may never happen. And instead, we will be saddling all of our travelers on Rhode Island's highways with the danger that they can get a traffic citation if they approach a gantry at 5 miles over the speed limit. The director bragged about how good the technology was. It's that good, and it will be used against your constituents. Thank you, Speaker. This bill gives extraordinary authority to the director of DOT. And that's a department that has proven over time to never get enough money. 4 years ago, we passed a bill that is now giving them $50 million a year. That wasn't enough. 2 years ago, we passed bills, along with the Sakonnet River Bridge controversy, that raised the DMV fees 300%, put the gas tax with inflation. And that's not enough. And now we're giving that same department the authority to change the classifications of the vehicles they want to toll, the cost of the vehicle they want to toll, the amount of gantries they want to put out, where they want to put them out. It's an extraordinary amount of authority, which no one holding them accountable to be fiscally responsible for the money we're giving them. This is a protection that they have to spend the money that we're giving them wisely, because it won't be just a click of the fingers to get more, to expand the number of vehicles and the kinds of vehicles they're taxing. This is a good amendment that protects our trucking industry, protects the jobs that's there, protects the pass-through that they will be putting on their customers. It should be an easy vote. We're already doing it for passenger cars. We've already added up to Class 7 in that protection. Now let's give them that extra, because DOT never gets enough money. They'll burn through this pile and go looking for more. Let's hold them accountable for the money that we give them and protect our consumers and our construction industry, our trucking industry at the same time. Thank you. It's going to be a long time before a bridge gets repaired under this bill anyway. And whenever we're spending $1 billion of the people's money and putting in a revenue stream that will forever encumber the state, I think it's important that we consult them. I trust the voters. They put all of us here. We should trust their collective wisdom on a piece of legislation that is this far-ranging and expensive. There is no reason not to ask them. It is a few short months until the election, so it can be easily done. It's a question added to the ballot, just like we add general obligation bonds. So it's an easy thing to do, and we should trust them and respect them enough to ask them. Thank you.
Clerk, unlock the machine. All in favor, please vote green. Those opposed, red. Clerk, lock the machine. 52 in favor, 21 opposed. The act prevails. Clerk, unlock the machine. All in favor, please vote green. Those opposed, red. Clerk, lock the machine. 52 in favor, 21 opposed. The act prevails. Representative Price.
Thank you, Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I support this amendment so it gives some incentives and some tools for the trucking companies, the local trucking companies, so that they could stay in Rhode Island. And if it is unconstitutional, it could be removed from the bill, as it says in the bill. But now, speaking of a lot of these trucking companies and the truck drivers around the state, and more than once I was told that what's the good thing about owning a trucking company is that you could pack up your stuff and leave. And I don't want to see that happen. I'd like to see the trucking companies have some tools where they can offset some of the costs of these tolls and help them keep and stay in business in Rhode Island. Thank you.
Clerk, unlock the machine. All in favor, please vote green. Those opposed, red. Clerk, lock the machine. 52 in favor, 21 opposed. The act prevails. Representative Reilly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I feel like it's a deja vu all over again. 4 years ago, I stood in that seat and I debated the Sakonnet River Bridge tolls unsuccessfully. And in my 2 years of vacation, that toll plan was revisited. And that toll plan was taken away because this House collectively decided that tolls in the East Bay were a bad idea, and we're going to find the money elsewhere, and we did. And that money to this day goes into the Transportation Trust Fund. Needless to say, my constituents are energized over the toll issue. And they're energized over the toll issue because of a lack of trust they have. A lack of trust with the General Assembly and a lack of trust with the DOT. A bridge was built there using federal funds, and they were told it was going to never be told. And then we came back and told it. We are back. After we said we had fixed transportation funding, after we gave them tens of millions of dollars a year more, we got them on a path to sustainable debt management, and now, yet again, it becomes a crisis. Not a problem on the horizon, but a crisis. No one in this room, no one I have encountered in this debate so far denies that we have an infrastructure funding problem in this state, denies that we don't have quality infrastructure in the state, denies that we don't have good enough infrastructure for what we pay for it. But if our goal is to fix how we fund infrastructure, this bill does not do it. Take away for a minute the Garvey, the new Garvey debt, the refinancing of existing debt. We could do that tomorrow. I don't think there would be great debate. And we'd be able to front load a lot of projects. The real debate is about the tolls going forward after that. And when you look at the operating costs, and when you look at how many times this proposal has been cut in half by the governor and by DOT in its many iterations on its way to the floor today, we're going to get so little money after all of the expenses and the interest are paid. Why is it worth it? In the governor's budget that she just proposed to us last week, general government spending is going up by over $50 million. This week to the media, the governor and her budget staff explained many of their assumptions in the budget as to how they found close to $100 million in new revenue. And having looked at the budget, I think they're absolutely right. There were growth in programs, we got more money. We were able to find $100 million, fund general government by an extra $50 million. But we can't find an extra $16 million to put into the Transportation Trust Fund, which would be the extra cash we would be getting from all of these gantries. From a policy perspective, this is not the right way to go. Don't think for 1 minute that this is some transformational fix as to how we fund infrastructure, and we're going to leapfrog all of the other states and have the best roads and bridges in the country. It was far from that transformational. As a bill, it has its serious flaws. I know many of you think that the Republican caucus tonight was attempting something close to a filibuster, and that we want to be here as long as you are by putting in amendment after amendment. But each of those amendments addressed flaws as we see them in the bill. And so tonight, by passing this bill not amended, we are saying DOT should have unlimited authority to make very important decisions. There should not be a limit on the number of gantries that could be on roads and bridges in our communities. There should not be a limitation on the government to collect data on vehicles that they have never collected before. And most strikingly, that we think we can pass off on our constituents this idea that if we want to toll passenger cars, it would have to be approved in the Constitution. Let me make it very clear, because I know many people are watching tonight, not in this chamber. This bill does not call for a question on the ballot in November asking the voters to keep there from being a toll on passenger cars. It's simply a statutory requirement that if we wanted to toll passenger cars, we would have to go to the voters first. Take it from me. Legislators come and legislators go. If anyone thinks that a future legislature is bound by that, you're joking yourself. If they want to put tolls on passenger cars, they simply remove that provision. And so this bill contains no true protections for passenger cars, even though I think a majority of this room, if not everyone, thinks that passenger cars should not be tolled and that it would be appropriate to put in the Constitution since that language made it into the final bill.
30 seconds.
We have not put in the protections we have promised to our constituents. This is a poorly worded bill, and this does not transform how we spend money on our roads. Look at our recent legislative history. We will be back at this. We have not fixed DOT. They will continue to waste money. And we have lost the trust of our constituents who expect us to fix this problem. Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem.
Clerk, unlock the machine. All in favor, please vote green. Those opposed, red. Clerk, lock the machine. 52 in favor, 21 opposed. The act prevails. Representative Roberts.
I rise in opposition to this toll bill because I'm choosing to listen to the voice of my constituents. And I'm telling you, I have never seen so much pushback, and these people are irate. And I have a feeling that this is not something that's exclusive to just my district. At least I know that I can answer my constituents' emails and phone calls with a clear conscience that I'm voting the way they have asked me to do. Right now, we have a smorgasbord of taxes in Rhode Island, and this here is just another way to tax the people. The people are tired. They cannot take anymore. And now that we are all here cognizant of what at least my district is saying they want, and likely yours, we can't turn around and say that we weren't aware when we pushed that button and vote in favor of this tolls bill. They have already informed me that if I push that green button in favor, I can plan for my retirement. So I implore you not to vote in favor of this bill. Thank you.
Clerk, unlock the machine. All in favor, please vote green. Those opposed, red. Clerk, lock the machine. 52 in favor, 21 opposed. The act prevails. Whip Trillo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. You know, I've always been a pro-business guy, and I'm always concerned anytime we do anything that's going to hurt business, especially Rhode Island business. And while I realize we really need to do something to fix our roads, I disagree with doing it on the backs of the very taxpayers that are supporting the businesses and producing the jobs in this state. You know, if you have a truck that qualifies for this, you're going to be spending, that truck owner is going to be spending $10,400 a year if he uses his truck on Rhode Island roads every business day. No, excuse me, every business day of every year. So the total price he's spending is $10,400 per truck. We said in the beginning we were going to try to get it so it would be the out-of-state trucks that are traveling through our state, that are using 95, and it was like 60 or 70% of the vehicles went right through the state. I don't have a problem with charging those people. I don't have a problem with charging them $80 to travel through the state. But what I have a problem with is the in-state trucks that are going to be paying $10,400 a year to operate every single truck that qualifies under this legislation. So we go to the amendment, and the amendment would give some tax credits. And it would give the tax credits to the people that report their taxes in the state of Rhode Island. And that obviously would be Rhode Island-based businesses. So I urge you to support this amendment, because what it will do is it will take the sting out of the Rhode Island businesses that are really going to be hurt with this. It'll leave the collections to the out-of-state truckers. They'll end up paying a little more money. And, you know, the constitutional argument, I've been listening to it for 16 years, and I've yet to see one really actually be challenged. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. I, too, stand in support of this amendment. Originally, you know, we heard that there were going to be 17 gantries. Now that was cut down to 14. As far as I'm concerned, we have about 12 too many at 14. So I think to put a limit on it is very justifiable, certainly justifiable. Because let me give you a scenario. What happens if we have 14 gantries and all of a sudden we decide we have a few loopholes in the mix there, and there's ways of trucks going around it? You know what's going to happen? You could have a gantry on your street. So I say to you, let's limit it to the ones that are on the plan that we can see today. Because it might not be your street today, but it could be your street tomorrow. Thank you.
Clerk, unlock the machine. All in favor, please vote green. Those opposed, red. Clerk, lock the machine. 52 in favor, 21 opposed. The act prevails.
Leader Algiere.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Chairman DuPont. I stand in opposition to the legislation before this body, but before I begin, I'd like to just mention some common ground we have in this room today. I think we're all on board with the understanding clearly that we need to do something with our aging infrastructure in our state. Our roads and bridges are in deplorable condition, and through the lack of maintenance over the years, many years, the roads and bridges have led to us being in a substandard, uncompetitive nature economically. We need to improve our infrastructure, our roads and bridges, so we can remain economically competitive. And positive things are happening in our state today. Repairing of our roads and bridges, we agree, will create jobs, good-paying jobs, construction jobs, union jobs. We agree to that. Where we disagree, the Republican caucus, is how to fund the work. We disagree on the toll provision in the legislation before us. We believe tolls will have a significant economic and social impact on our state. It will be negative to our businesses. It will send the wrong message to our businesses. The diversion of traffic as a result of these gantries will create traffic and congestion on our secondary roadways through our small villages and towns off of 95, 295, and 195. And this diversion will also have a negative impact on businesses that come through our state, such as those who purchase diesel fuel. We are very competitive in the pricing of our diesel fuel. Perhaps we should go up a penny, 2, 3, 4, or 10 cents. Also, we are not convinced that the tolls will produce the projected revenue. We're not convinced of that. We feel that the diversion, evasion, non-payment, administrative costs, and maintenance costs and fees will not provide the revenue that's projected under the plans and proposals. And we're also concerned about the upfront costs, that is, the cost of the gantries and the administrative and construction costs of building the gantries. We firmly believe that we do need to fix our infrastructure. We need a quick infusion, a stimulus, and we need to do it now, but we just don't agree on the revenue through tolls. We think it sends a bad message, and I ask my colleagues to please consider their vote this afternoon. Thank you.
Clerk, please unlock the machine. Shall the Rhode Island Bridge Replacement, Reconstruction, and Maintenance Fund pass? Have all senators indicated their vote? Will the clerk please lock the machine? 25 in the affirmative, 12 in the negative, and the act passes. Will the clerk please unlock the machine? Senator Kettle.
Thank you, Madam President. We all agree that we need to fix our roads and bridges. Obviously, like Senator Algiere said, where we disagree is our ability or way to fund it. Just in my district alone, we have a bridge that we need to fix, and I find it very interesting because it was just fixed 2 years ago, and there's already a hole in it. I, like many of you, have received countless emails, phone calls, letters. You go shopping, people run into you, and it's been absolutely resounding from the people that I represent. I'm not going to speak for the other districts, but they have said no to tolls. My constituents are skeptical. They are skeptical that the cost of the tolls will be passed on to them, and they are skeptical and fearful that the tolls will eventually be extended to passenger vehicles. The language that is in this bill, I commend. It's a start. But that can be changed tomorrow. And to look at the track record of the General Assembly, all right, how can this be any different? When I was born, we had the credit union crisis and a temporary sales tax of 1%, which last time I checked, we're still paying. I find the governor's remark on, I believe, Channel 10 the other day, one of the news channels, that we're going to be fixing our roads and bridges without raising taxes to be very interesting. The last time I checked, a toll, a fee, is still a tax. You can call it whatever you want. It's still a tax. And here in Rhode Island, we're pretty good at taxing our people. And I've said publicly, maybe tolls would be okay. But you look at New Hampshire, they have tolls, they have nice roads, but they don't have an income tax, they don't have a sales tax. But in Rhode Island, I just have some statistics. We rank 8th in the country on the state and local tax burden, 8th highest. 45th on business climate, 29th on sales tax rates, 44th on state and local cell phone tax rates. We rank 43rd on state and local property tax collections. So we got you coming and going. We are above average on taxing our people and our businesses. What do we think this is going to do to improve our business climate of 45th? And I find it interesting that we commissioned a study commission. A lot of people in this chamber, in this building, worked very hard to get rid of the Sakonnet Bridge toll, which went down at the Super Bowl. And in that study commission, it said, quote, eliminating tolls on the Sakonnet River Bridge will add to the momentum of our economy as we continue to come out of the Great Recession. So why is it the toll is not good over there, but we can put 14 more tolls up all over the state, maybe even more? Last year, we passed a reduction of $50 in the corporate tax, which I support. I personally think it should be lower, but it's a start. But this proposal is going to cost businesses much more than that. In Coventry, we are home to a oil company, a wholesaler called Parentes Oil, which is actually in Senator Raptakis' district, but it is very close to mine. 10 times a day, he runs up to the city of Providence. He will be tolled under this proposal. So that'll be $40, okay, $240 a week, over $12,000 a year this is going to cost him. Now, do we expect businesses to just eat that cost? Obviously, the constituents that I've heard from are concerned that this is going to be passed on to them. And also of note, I saw in the news lately that 2 shipping companies are pulling out of Staten Island. Why? Because of tolls. Now, I think we should take a very good look at this and we should have some concern, especially in light of the recent budget proposal to bond and improve the port at Quonset. And lastly, I want to talk about the impact that's going to happen to my district. In West Greenwich, we have Rhode Island's only truck stop, the TA, which is considered, I'm sorry, Senator Morgan, that is your district, but I've been involved with assisting the TA on a number of matters. I apologize for stealing this. But anyway, the impact, this is actually their most successful truck stop around. And the restaurant, which is Popeyes, not my favorite, but it is their most successful. All right, nothing wrong with Popeyes. But it's the most successful restaurant that they operate. The impact from these tolls will obviously be negative. The town of West Greenwich, it's a small town. They receive a lot of tax money from the truck stop and also the meals tax with the 1% that they receive. The last time that Route 95 was reconstructed, again before I was born in the 1980s, there was diversion on Route 3, Route 102. And unfortunately, this is no laughing matter. There was a fatality due to tractor trailers being diverted down Route 3. Again, there is concern with my constituents in Western Rhode Island about diversion on our rural roads, on Route 3, Route 102, Route 6, Route 14. These roads are not going to be handling all of these trucks. And to say that the state police is going to go out there and police them, you know, there should be freedom of movement. So with that, Madam President, I ask my colleagues to consider their vote tonight, and I am going to be opposing this legislation, and I ask my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Will the clerk please unlock the machine? Amendment, Senator Morgan.
Thank you, Madam President. I see what Lou is saying as a pause. We're rushing this through without doing due diligence. We're not going to be able to start working on these roads for at least a year. So pausing, I see nothing wrong with taking a pause and listening to our constituents, who I am getting overwhelmingly bombarded with emails, phone calls, who do not want this, businesses who do not want this, on this amendment to pause. So I go along with Lou, Senator Raktakis, to put a pause on this.
Thank you. Senator Morgan.
Thank you, Madam President. We live in a state the size of a peanut. Basically, other states maintain their roads and bridges. DOT receives $500 million a year to maintain their roads and bridges. Massachusetts receives less than $700 million, with 10 times as many roads and bridges, actual bridges, not overpasses, than we do. They do a spectacular job. We can't maintain the roads that we have. They have 10 times the amount. They receive only less than 200 million more than we do. My concern is, when we cannot pay back this bond, where is the money going to come from? If the trucks are diverting and going around our state, who is going to pay for this? We are. Either our taxes will be raised, or they will toll our cars and our vehicles. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Clerk, please unlock the machine. Shall the Rhode Island Bridge Replacement, Reconstruction and Maintenance Fund pass? Have all senators indicated their vote? Will the clerk please lock the machine? 25 in the affirmative, 12 in the negative, and the act passes. Thank you, Senator. Senator O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in opposition to this bill. I've received, since we're counting, I've received over 100 emails, calls. I did receive 2 in favor. One was from a business. They don't have any trucks, but they do consulting. I represent the town of North Smithfield as well as Lincoln and North Providence. I did receive a resolution from North Smithfield opposing this. And I always, whenever I come up here, I try to remind myself, why am I here? I'm here to represent the people of my district. Granted, different districts have different demographics, different members of their voting bloc, but I'm here to represent the people of my district and respond to them and to their concerns. And clearly, the message to me is that they don't want tolls. They believe that tolls are bad for business. And the underlying message I'm getting is that they don't trust us. The voters do not trust us. Why don't they trust us? Well, how many members of this chamber and the chamber across the hall have ended up in jail? Some of them still there. So it's understandable.
Could you please debate?
I'm sorry?
Could you please focus your comments to the legislation?
Yes. Well, what I'm trying to explain is what the concern is of my constituents and why they are opposed to this bill. But I do want to mention a couple of other things, too, that the businesses that we have here in Rhode Island that contribute so much to our economy, I think we need to be respectful of the value that they contribute and keep in mind that there's a lot of charitable work that goes into the efforts of these businesses like Cardi's, like Ocean State Job Lot, who is probably the largest contributor to the food banks throughout the state. So I would ask you to keep all of these things in mind when you weigh the pros and cons of this bill and be respectful of all the people who are providing jobs to all of our constituents here in Rhode Island. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Clerk, please unlock the machine. Shall the Rhode Island Bridge Replacement, Reconstruction, and Maintenance Fund pass? Have all senators indicated their vote? Will the clerk please lock the machine? 25 in the affirmative, 12 in the negative, and the act passes. At this time, I would recognize Senator Pagliarini.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in opposition to this bill. Senators, there are no exceptions, there are no exemptions in this bill. Your municipality has a fire truck on Route 95, it qualifies for a toll. The National Guard convoy on Route 95 qualifies for a toll. If a trash hauler hauling municipal trash from the city of Newport wants to bring it to the Johnston landfill, it requires a toll. There are no exceptions. We're going to start having municipal tolling under this bill. There are no provisions.
On the main act, Senator Pagliarini.
Thank you, Madam President. All right. If I may draw everybody's attention to page 8, lines 15, 19, and 22. They all commence with the same language. Subject to Section 42-13.1-14. I'm not sure that's correct. I believe the intent might have been Section 4, because the inference, if it is Clause 14, is it's the severability clause. And if it's the severability clause, then there's an indication by the author of the bill that they don't think it's constitutional, because no other reference in this entire bill references the severability clause, since it's a catch-all for the entire bill. So my question for somebody to answer would be whether or not those lines are indeed Section 14, or should they reference Section 4?
Please be seated, Senator, and we will, in fact, secure an answer to your question. The lawyers will double-check the citation.
If I may continue? Other points?
I thought that was your question.
Oh, no. Several.
All right. If you would, once again, you certainly can proceed. And as a member of Finance, I'm sure most of these questions you raised in committee, but it'll just take a moment for the chair to check with legal counsel
Sure.
to verify the statutory references.
And what we did have on Finance 7 hours of testimony, but we also had zero debate on the merits of the bill.
Please proceed, Senator,
All right.
while they research your question. That's my only request.
Thank you. Same page, same section, line 19. One of the main selling points of this entire statute, proposed statute, is that local truckers or interstate commerce coming through our state, we're going to be able to have a maximum toll of $20 per day. But if you read page 8, line 19, subject to section 42-13.1-14, subject to review, the total amount of tolls imposed upon the same individual large commercial truck using an RFID for making a border-to-border through trip on Route 95 Connecticut to Route 95 Massachusetts or the reverse shall not exceed $20. I'd ask the sponsor of the bill to answer the question. If I'm a truck and I come from Connecticut and I travel to East Providence and I'm subject to multiple gantries, and then I reverse my route and take the 610 connector and go up 295, can I be told more than $20 a day? Because this bill says it's $20 a day if I'm on Route 95. It does not say 195, 295, 146, or 24.
Senator DePalma.
Thank you, Madam President. Senator, I believe it's the $20 limit per day one way.
Yes, sir.
It's $40 round trip.
Yes, sir. But that's not what the language says. We're wordsmiths. We read the language, and the language says it's $20.
Certainly, Senator, you're free to argue that on the merits.
Yeah, all right. Well, on the merits, it says $20 a day if you travel Route 95 from Connecticut to Massachusetts. It does not say $20 a day if you go up Route 295, starting your origin point being at the Connecticut 95 point. It does not say $20 a day if you start at Connecticut Route 95 and go Route 146.
Please proceed, Senator.
Thank you. This bill gives the Department of Transportation effectively unfettered power to set toll prices and locations. I'm greatly troubled by that. Then we have the Dormant Commerce Clause. The United States Supreme Court often has said that states cannot pass legislation that infringes on interstate commerce. I believe there was commentary by Mr. Alviti in committee that, yeah, we've looked at that. I have not seen a legal opinion. I have not seen a paper. I don't know if others have. But I don't believe this bill passes muster. And I drew in committee attention to the fact that we charge a toll evader in this bill $3,000. We know the intent of this bill is for the big trucks. However, our current statute for toll evaders on the Newport Bridge is $500. We have devised a scheme that is much more punitive to interstate commerce than to local traffic on the Newport Bridge. And I see that as a failing that will be brought up in court by anybody who does bring action against us. Additionally, hold on. Hold 1 second, please. The fallacy that 60% of the revenue will be generated by out-of-state truckers because they're damaging our bridges, I don't believe that. Each of us here, or most of us here, park in the lower parking lot. And when we walk up those concrete stairs, what is the condition of those stairs? Those stairs are crumbling due to the rock salt that is put on them. The damage that's caused to our bridges is by the neglect
of our Department of Transportation. We are singling out an industry stating that they are the cause of damage to our bridges, yet it's the Department of Transportation's negligence and failure that's causing the majority of it. This bill does not address the 102,000-pound dump trucks. We're saying that weight of vehicles is what's causing the problems, yet we're giving the local trucks that weigh a lot a free pass here. This is going to come back and haunt us in a federal litigation. Are you aware that a fully loaded RIPTA bus weighs more than an empty 18-wheeler? These are all problems that are going to be raised in litigation against us. Lastly, Madam President, based on the above, I ask that this bill be recommitted to the Finance Committee and make that motion.
Motion has been made for recommittal, seconded by Senator O'Neill, Senator Algiere, Senator Kettle, Senator G., and Senator Morgan. This is a debatable motion, Mr. Chairman. On the motion to recommit.
I would urge my colleagues to vote against it. We are going to have, we've had plenty of debate. We're going to continue to have, I'm sure, much more debate as the afternoon goes on. So I would encourage you to vote against the motion.
Motion to recommit has been made and seconded. Will the clerk please unlock the machine? Shall the act be recommitted? Will the clerk please lock the machine? 26 in the negative, 10 in the affirmative, and the motion to recommit fails. Senator Pagliarini.
Thank you, Madam President. Been taking copious notes and would like to address a few things point by point. Chairman DePont, still very concerned knowing now that those sections on page 8 are correctly listed. The only sections in this entire statute that reference the possibility of unconstitutionality really would give me pause if I owned a truck. Additionally, the language, the black and white language of this bill states $20 maximum, Connecticut 95 to Mass 95. There will be greater than $20 tolls based on the language that is seemingly going to pass. Senator Lombardi, respectfully, you quoted the landmine in this bill. One truck equals 9,600 cars. A 1979 report that was convenient for the authors of this bill that has been debunked by the University of Texas in 1999. I'm not saying that a truck doesn't cause more damage, but to complete and to cite this in a state statute is offensive because it's not true. A 1979 report, road standards have changed, truck construction has changed, tires have changed, and one truck does not equal that number anymore due to the latest studies if you go onto the University of Texas website. Nobody's mentioned the RIPAC report. This bill provides $700 million of unaccounted for surplus. Is that going to go silently into the night? $700 million. That's a problem. Are we borrowing too much? Should we not be tolling? But the RIPAC report gives us alternatives that were not debated in committee. The good senators who talked about their district and the jobs and how they knock on doors and people are unemployed, Senators Chacon, Senator Met, Senator Crowley. I understand that. But I sat through 7 hours of testimony with independent trucker company after independent trucker company saying that they've got 43 employees in Pawtucket, 109 employees in Pawtucket, UPS. These people are all going to face a serious business decision on whether or not they remain in the state of Rhode Island. Senator Goodwin's referenced our governor. Our governor has made a proposal for high-tech jobs. It appears there's a balancing act here, and what we're willing to concede are the truck drivers, the secretaries, the mechanics, the lower paid blue-collar jobs. That is what is at stake here if the entire trucking industry decides to pick up and leave our state, because the correct phrase was the path to prosperity is now obstructed by 14 gantries. Okay? We don't want to lose the jobs that are important to the neighborhoods that need them, but not everybody is going to fit into the governor's high-tech jobs. Not everybody's going to do a green job as Madam President wants. We need mechanics. We need people that work at retail outlets. And those jobs are at peril with this bill. Okay? Additionally, I respectfully have several four-letter words for Senator Preciado. Salt, cold, rain. Each of those are doing more damage to our bridges than trucks. It's through neglect that our roads are in the condition they are in. To say that 60% of the damage is being caused by out-of-state trucks is to have a mathematical equation that knows exactly how much damage was caused by trucks, how much was caused by salt, how much was caused by ice, how much was caused by cold. We don't know that. We'll stipulate trucks cause damage, but if I need you to stipulate that DEM's negligence is what got us into this spot. And that's where we are, and that's why we're faced with Chairman DePont said, a critical situation in front of us. And nobody argues that. The problem that we have is this bill has too many unknowns in it. Okay? We have got an income stream that is endless in a 10-year plan. Tolls, once we put those gantries up, they're not coming down. But as Senator Kettle said, we see how quickly they can come down. And what pause that should give everybody is that they can be moved. There's 500 and some odd bridges, but yet we've only identified 14 gantries. Is it possible that DOT, once a bridge is done, moves the gantry to another bridge, to a neighborhood near you? This bill is open-ended in many aspects, and we need more time. The amendment that I previously proposed gives immediate funding to solve the problem. Senator Goodwin identified tragedies throughout the United States. The one thing I trust is our DOT to avert those, because but for them, we may have lost the Speaker of the House because they shut his bridge down before it collapsed. We need to look at our bridges, but it has to be in a different mechanism. This bill, as proposed, gives us jobs. We want them. However, it just is so open-ended on so many issues, it's going to come back. And lastly, to Chairman DePont, I am an attorney. And I am concerned greatly of the open testimony that local incentives and local businesses will have further bills passed to support them. The federal courts will find that this is a systemic scheme, and they will rule against this entire bill. And we are going to end up tolling cars, or we're going to say, take the gantries down, and we're going to be stuck with the bonds. Thank you.
Is there any objection? If there's no objection, with the consent of the chamber, you shall be allowed to speak a third time.
Thank you, Madam President. And quickly, the one omission to my previous commentary. The state of Rhode Island has a permit process for overload vehicles and overweight vehicles. This bill does not address those. If our concern is really about heavy trucks causing damage on our vehicles and on Allens Avenue and other local roads, why does this bill not address the heaviest of the heaviest vehicles on the road? Again, an empty 18-wheeler is 30, 40,000 pounds, but you can buy a permit, and last year we only raised $392,000 in overloaded permits, I believe is the number, and like $1.2 million in overloaded permits. So why is that permit process not also part of this as a comprehensive outlook to protect our roads? Thank you.
Clerk, please unlock the machine. Shall the Rhode Island Bridge Replacement, Reconstruction and Maintenance Fund pass? Have all senators indicated their vote? Will the clerk please lock the machine? 25 in the affirmative, 12 in the negative, and the act passes.